Welcome to the Principal Podcast, where we talk about how the best professional services firms grow. Whether you're looking to scale your firm or learn from the stories of founders and leaders who've done it, you're in the right place. Join us as we interview the best leaders in professional services. Let's get on with the show.
Good morning, everybody. Today we're on with Bob Kulhan, who is the founder and CEO of Business Improv, a very unique company designed to really help people and grow their business, but more importantly, one I think that you're going to find a fascinating story behind it, and Bob's story of all his evolution, how he came about to start this company. Bob, why don't you go ahead and share, how did you create Business Improv?
Dennis, it's good to see you. I'm glad to be here. All right, so I'm a professional improviser from Chicago. That's where I cut my teeth as an improv and sketch comedian. I am very happy and proud to say I rose to all of the highest stages possible in Chicago as a performer before moving to New York and doing the same thing out here on the East Coast. 27 years ago now, 1999.
Oh my gosh, that's a long time.
It's I know I only look like I'm 27. I feel
That's a tough business.
well, yeah. You know what? I was 27 years old when this all started, so half my life, as a matter of fact. All right, so I had the opportunity to collaborate to create the first program in any business school in the entire world that focused solely on linking improvisation to organizational development, business development, leadership development, team development, creating culture, ultimately.
Right.
And that was at the Duke University Fuqua School of Business. And I'm happy to say this past January, we ran our 27th year of a 5-day intensive. And next January, we're on the books for year number 28. And the way
That's
that we
fabulous.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a great business school, and I get the opportunity to collaborate with great professors there. And specifically where we started, Dennis, 27 years ago, was linking improvisation to all this development through behavioral psychology and cognitive psychology and org theory and even behavioral economics.
Okay.
Yes.
And you also at UCLA and Columbia as well.
Yeah, we've been at UCLA, Anderson since 2003, and Columbia Business School since 2005. And we've had a lot of great relationships with a lot of great business schools and a lot of great businesses and organizations.
What got you to go from improv into the business philosophy, or were you a business major who just enjoyed improv? Tell me that journey.
All right, so I will always say tongue-in-cheek that my only formal degree is a business degree, and appropriately enough, it's a BS in business. So I got my undergrad degree at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and I was actually quite successful in my young 20s. I won a Bank of America award for creative marketing, and at the point that I was getting headhunted by Leo Burnett and Saatchi and Footcomb Building, all these advertising agencies and publicity houses as well, I just left the business world completely and dove into improvisation, and then cut to about 5 years later. And this was, by the way, much to the delight of my parents.
No doubt.
Yeah, going
No
from
doubt.
a potential six-figure career in my young 20s to making nothing, performing improv.
Yeah, and thinking that your life is going to be just about comedy all the time, where we wanted you to go to business school and you did a great job, and now you're doing this.
And I was like, yeah. Well, the negotiation I had with them was give me 4.5 years. It took me 4.5 years to get through the university setting, so let me have 4.5 years to see what I can do in improv. And if I can't do anything in 4.5 years, then we'll talk about tiptoeing back in. Because I figured, I had enough credibility, even still with that Bank of America award being a half a decade old, people would be curious to at least have a conversation.
No doubt. So,
Yes.
so after their shock wore off, and now you're in dabbling into this new world, what helped you realize that maybe I can combine both?
Necessity. I was
Always the mother of all invention.
It is, right? It is. That is, I was broke as a joke, and I did everything in my power not to come back into business. I was, of course, coaching tons of improv in the mid-90s, teaching improv, and then I was like hauling sheetrock, and I was a nanny for one summer. And I was doing painting houses, whatever people would pay me cash in hand to do, I was doing to not enter back into business. And then about 5 years later, I'm just tired. I'm trying to figure out what to do. My improv career is very, very successful. Not a lot of money in the mid late 90s though in improv. So as successful you are as a performer, that doesn't mean you're generating income. Even though I was doing touring and stuff like that, it's still minimal. So I needed more work. And
Right.
it really was serendipity to hear a couple of business professors who were on sabbatical from University of Chicago, excuse me, from Duke at University of Chicago School of Business, before it was now Booth School of Business, and they were talking about experiential learning and what they could do. And I jumped on the opportunity to chat with them and talk with them about this idea of improv. And I had done some corporate training for those big improv houses in Chicago in the past, and it was vacuous. It was really people would take these programs and walk out, and we'd have to say goodbye to them as they walk out, and they would say, "That was a lot of fun. I can't use this stuff."
Right.
And it made me feel gross. It made me feel like a charlatan. And so when I heard them talking, and the more I thought about it, the more I saw that my background in business could be applied to improvisation, and more specifically, improvisation techniques can be applied to strengthen the skill set as it relates to communication, collaboration, creativity, change, adaptability, conflict management, sales. It goes
Right.
to all these different places because, in truth, as you know, hosting these podcasts and running your business and your extensive background in business as well, we have to react and adapt and communicate in life. Those three core competencies in business improv, how we define improvisation, reacting, adapting, communicating, is everywhere.
In
And if
every aspect.
yes, in every aspect of life. And that means it applies to everyone ultimately. And so, yeah, it really was this necessity of I need to do something, I need to figure something out. Serendipity, right place, right time, also right skill set to be able to jump on it. And then just as I was performing with and taught by the highest caliber person in Chicago in the mid 90s, I had the opportunity to collaborate on the university side with thought leaders from around the world. So I thought it was a pretty cool thing to do.
Well, no kidding. And more importantly, to have the right mentors to be able to help guide you into, hey, you can really make this thing work with those excellent schools of business. So when you looked at your challenges that you had to figure out, okay, how am I going to take this and make it a viable enterprise, not just a occasional hobby? So how did you turn your business into something where they go out and companies now would like to have you come in, Bob, and work with them?
So, as we bridge into that question, Dennis, I want to give a shout out to a person that I would consider a mentor, as he just retired
Okay.
recently as one of the deans at the Duke University Fuqua School of Business, Ruskin Morgan. Russ, shout out to you. Thank you for getting my back and supporting me and guiding me along the last quarter century
Fabulous.
ultimately as well.
Fabulous.
So, how did we really start driving it to the business and making it make sense? The behavioral sciences was the first part because improvisation is fun by nature. So, in business improv in the late 90s, early 2000s, especially as all my friends, we all needed to get additional supplemental work,
Right.
additional jobs because you just couldn't make, even at the highest level of performer, unless you're actually on those big stages earning equity money. You're touring and stuff, which means that you had to be a waiter or a bartender, which I was as well in those days. And I just focused my time instead of my thought was if I can get like 3 or 4 big jobs a year, I don't have to wait tables. So I'll just focus all my time and energy on getting those 3 or 4 or 5, 6 big jobs a year,
Okay.
and that's where I'll drive it. And so it started with behavioral sciences very early on, and all those great collaborations that I had the opportunity to have. Quickly though, people were asking me like, "Well, what's the pull through? How do you transfer this? How do you sustain this?" And this became a massive differentiator of business improvs from still almost all other improv houses around the globe. Applied improv, corporate improv, doesn't matter. This is a huge differentiator of ours that when you walk out of our programs, you have tools and techniques that you can use now, immediately. And that means you can start transferring them as well.
Yeah, immediately transferable. Oh, that's critical.
And so the next part of that was that pull through, that sustainability aspect of like, well, how do you create a culture that will support this as well? And that's a huge differentiator of ours.
Well, and with that being said, because you hit it right on the nail at the beginning of our conversation when you go, I felt like people would come out of there and they go, hey, that was great. It was fabulous. Way to go. Bob, that was outstanding, but I'm not going to be able to use it or apply it. And then you go, oh my God, well then what am I doing here? But then when you can figure out how to transfer it and it becomes part of a culture, that has value. You can look at things as an event or the establishment of a process towards a culture. And that's what you evolve to, and that I applaud you for that. I've seen it happen in business too much, where people have events, and then 3 days later, people are back to bad habits. So
yes.
What was the purpose? So how do you sustain then with your client acquisition? So I'm looking to have some changes. I've heard about this business improv, and this gentleman named Bob, I heard through someone at Duke. This guy's pretty good. How do you market yourself to attract new clients? Is it social media, referrals? What's the methodology that's best for you, Bob?
Word of mouth. I think that's almost always right. If it's not always, in some capacity, especially with the social channels that are out there now, that's still really word of mouth. If you're getting
in some form.
In some form, right. However, especially getting into a business, as we are a people change and culture change organization, that's what we really focus on. So the longevity becomes super important as well. Duke 27 years, Columbia 23 years now, Columbia 21, UCLA 23. All of this makes sense, especially as we go into organizations. Now, organizations I want to put in general terms because it could be big business, it could be small business, it could be global enterprises, it could be mom and pop shops, because we focus on people skills. We focus on human connection, which is something to continue to lean into, especially as we continue to get challenged with different technologies and AI and et cetera. It's how do we connect with people? How do we build relationships with people and ultimately build those core elements of relationships like trust and empathy and connectivity ultimately with this. And so once we start talking about that with people, then it's just a matter of proof of concept. Once we go and improve it, then they're able to talk with other people about it.
How do you measure that?
So in 2018, it might have been 17. We put data analytics in place. Big global biopharma, can't mention by name. However, they had the pockets deep enough to say, okay, you have proven qualitatively that this works. We want quantitative research. We want to see the results. And we went to several data analytics companies and said, hey, we want to show behavior change. We want to show culture change. And over again at that time, and this might even have been 2016, they said, you can't do it. You can't prove it. You can't prove it. And me and my COO were like, no, you can't prove it. We can prove it. We just need to figure out the metrics.
The metrics, yeah.
That's it. So we finally found somebody who was like, I'm a rogue data analytics dude. I'll come in and work with you for a while. And he did. And it's I'll give another shout out, Nick Toby, who's now at Oklahoma University, Price School of Business. Is running their exec ed program. So shout out to you, Nick. He came in and put this all in place, and working with him and working with this big biopharma and having the opportunity to work with a senior leadership team who was working on a 6-year rollout of a big drug, which again can't mention by name. However, we flipped that senior leadership team. It was global. They were, and this is before COVID, so the use of these mediums was not in place. Yet Business Improv always was focused on going virtual. Back in 2010, we were trying to figure out how to take improv and move it to this space. So by 2016, 17, it was part of our portfolio. We were showing how to create a strong leadership team that was built in trust and cohesion and chemistry. And we flipped that leadership team, and they said, okay, now we want to, you've proved it. You proved it that you can flip these senior leaders. they all lead an army underneath them in all these different divisions, distribution, manufacturing, sales, all this stuff. They all need to be flipped as well. And we want to be able to prove this investment in capital on you, because when everybody sees the word improv, it's inherently dismissed as something negative. We want to make sure that we have a CYA in place for us. And so they opened up their wallets. We found the right people, and we have quantitatively proven that we flip behavior and we flip culture to the positive.
Interesting. I mean, because some things are generally always viewed as not measurable. Training, for example, when you go in and train someone on a sales approach and they go ahead and they go from X to X plus 4. Well, was it because you dropped the price? Was it because the market conditions made it easier to do it? Because the competitor in that area folded and now there wasn't any competition? How do we know that that training you provided was the plus 4? And so with what you're saying you're doing with your cultural changes and with the improv, you came up with a metrics dynamic to measure it. That becomes a proof source. So now if I go to company B, I just did company A, company B can say, hey, contact company A, here's where their metric improvement. I imagine, being as sharp as you are, and you're very articulate, and I love a person who has good command of the English language. So I would say, Bob, you probably took full advantage of your proof source as a way to market, to show validation. So besides that, are you doing anything else to attract new customers besides referrals, somewhat of a social media campaign, but not anything extensive, it sounds like? And I guess the validation of all the universities who have you there, that's pretty powerful. And just reference that to a client who wants to know more about you. But are you trying to grow your business to a point where you need to have marketing distribution?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we are working with, and I can't go into great detail, we're looking at expansion. We are looking at opportunities to continue to widen the net, because similar to something you said before, I'll just go front and center with our company mission. Our mission is to change the world for the better using these techniques.
Okay.
And so it's not a small swing that we've ever been trying to make. It's a big one. And so with that, we're always looking to expand. We're looking to figure out how to market, communicate better. And certainly, as you mentioned as well at the start of that question, optimizing, you got to use what you got to get what you want, right? So you have created something that it really has some substance to it. You have to ring the bell about that. And often you have to remind people that that bell is still there. So even though that this is 8 to 10 years later, after we created it, companies are still wildly interested in this. They want to see it. And of course, we redact all the important information, not important information, detailed information to make sure our client is safe. And
confidentiality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. However, you have to use what you have to put yourself in a better position to succeed going forward.
So to do that, as you look at going after a client, and if you get a customer, just call them XYZ Corporation, and they agree to engage your services from contact when you first talk to them to agreeing to go forward and put into play what you do, what's that selling cycle like?
It really depends, because often, a few times a year, we get those last minute calls of, we have a job in 2 weeks. We hired a group and we just realized that was going to be an event. And we're not looking for the event. We are looking for something with substance. Can you come in? And of course, we have Business Improv has always been a virtual team. So we're New York, Chicago, LA, which is where we started. Tri-coastal is what we used to call it. And now we're in Oregon. We're in Oklahoma. We're in Colorado. We're in North Carolina. So we are regionally dispersed.
Okay.
So we can divide and conquer in that capacity as well. And we can scale. We've been doing this for a quarter century, so our army of business improvisers is absolutely tremendous. And our global reach is also significant. And of course, we've been doing this virtually since 2017. We have an asynchronous program, and we have a book. We have all sorts of different ways to reach people. So our approach is really customization. We are here to serve. We are here to serve
Okay.
and support. And so that life cycle sometimes is short and sometimes it takes a while to build that relationship to the point, especially in a university setting where it's been challenged in the last couple of years and the red tape is pretty thick. It might take a couple of years to get in front of a client. I would say on average though, especially if you're talking about medium to larger size businesses, a couple of months.
What's your sweet spot, company size wise? Take the universities out of it. Company size wise, what's your sweet spot for someone who might utilize what you do?
Here's the really cool thing about this. It's people skills. So I'm going to go in the language of Josh Pryor, my COO, of we are industry agnostic. If you have to talk with people, if you have to communicate, collaborate, handle conflict, ideate, manage change, deal with sales, we work with you. So we work with everyone from large global organizations that are going through massive change, mergers, acquisitions, things of this nature. They got to get everybody to play nice in the sandbox. Do one-on-one coaching. We do executive coaching, individual. We've been coaching a U.S. senator for 3.5 years. So we work with you on your terms. And so our sweet spot is less of a size and it's much more of the desire of the individual who's bringing us in or individuals who are bringing us in to impact change, to make a difference.
To get a result, basically.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
The return on investment has to be there because if not, it turns into that event that you mentioned before, which
Right.
is great. Go to a different shop and do that. We want to make a difference.
Right. And hopefully your senator either gets elected or gets reelected. Anyway, moving off that topic. He'll either be a good proof source or one you'll say, I don't even know the guy. But anyway, as you look at your business going forward, where do you see the biggest challenge in growth?
The biggest challenge in growth, I think, right now is in how people are dealing with the elephant in the room, the AI.
AI.
What people are doing with that. Is taking a massive amount of focus. You look at a lot of events and conferences and focuses on training, it's evolved into what are we going to do with this beast? What are we going to do with this elephant? And how are we going to tame it and ride it and do something with it? As opposed to, well, how are we going to collaborate with each other and use this as a support technique before
Which is what it is.
it
Anyone-
is.
It's
Until
a tool.
Terminator takes over, right? Until they start controlling us.
Till Schwarzenegger shows up, we're all in good shape.
Right.
So,
And that's what it is. And instead, I think a lot of people are looking at it as a partner. And it's understandable. And at the same time, partners can't. I'm going to hesitate to say this because John Oliver did a fantastic piece on AI where people are using it as a therapy session. They're using it for advice. And of course, it doesn't have empathy. But it talks like it has empathy. It's very confusing. And it confuses a lot of people. Ultimately for us, though, it's going to drive back to human connection. It's going to drive back to people skills.
All right. And you mentioned you got your army of guys, your business improvers, as I believe you called them. How do you find them?
Oh, that's a good question. So my army of really talented men and women, it starts with your improv training. You have to have been doing improv and teaching improv for a decade or very close to it.
Okay.
And you have to be doing it at a very high level. And I have to be able to track and trace you. I should know who you're coming because I'm very fortunate in so much that I'm still, I've been performing for 31 years. I perform with many of the best in America. So our network is strong, very strong. From there, you have to be able to tell me about some teaching experiences that put you through the ringer inside your classroom. and if you have corporate experience as well in improvisation, because the next step after that is you have to have spent time in the corporate world. You
Okay.
need, yeah, you can't join business improv if you weren't, I don't care, IT, tech support, you could have been marketing, you could have been like I was, you could have been admin. It doesn't matter to me. HR, you have to be able to understand this audience that we're talking with. And then from there, are you trainable? Are you a member of a good member of the team? You know, the no asshole rule of like,
Right.
I don't want you to be toxic to anybody else. I don't want you to undermine anybody else. And certainly if we're stuck in a airport for 7 hours, I want to be able to like laugh, you know,
Right.
do a lot. We laugh and learn, we laugh and teach, you know, it's improv. So, and then from there, it's, are you good? Are you good at what you do? You know, to be part of our team, you have to be the best that we can find.
Are you looking to grow your team?
Always.
Okay. All
Always.
right. Because people that have that background should be, when they say, listen to this, I would say that, you know, hey, there's opportunities that are out there. And the thing that's important that you said, and I can attest to this too, I always measured if I got caught in the car with someone who works with me or for me, because our flight got canceled and now I got to drive 6 hours with this person in the rain because of the weather conditions. Could I not end up wanting to just murder them by the end of the car ride? And I'm actually there, and it was an enjoyable conversation. We had fun, we laughed, learned more about them as a person, and now I have total trust that I know that they're and someone who can communicate with a client, handle adversity, and do it and still have a smile on their face. So I applaud your being caught in an airport for 7 hours, as that can be gruesome. So with that being said, you know, you look at what you're doing right now, client expansion, and you said you want to conquer the world. How are you going to do that? I mean, are you going to do it one state at a time, or what are you going to try and do to achieve that, Bob?
You know, I'm very fortunate in so much that some of our client partners are global brands. So we've had the opportunity to teach and create programs on 6 of 7 continents. So if you
Good.
know anybody in Antarctica who can help us out, you know, as much as I'd like to go there on my own.
The last bastion to conquer. There you go.
Yeah, yeah, you know, I'll come work with scientists. All I need is I'll, you know, negotiate a very sweet fee to make this happen. To say that
The warm clothes, yeah.
planted flags on 7 continents. It really is though. Going back to the talent, right? You have to find that great talent. You have to understand the talent. On our side as leaders, empathy has to be part of that. So that connection has to be a very human connection to understand if the trust is there, and then build the trust. And if you have that group of people, which I'm super fortunate to have, like if you look at my website, not only are they elite improvisers, they've been with business improv for years and decades, some of them.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So if you have that in place, then you can go and divide and conquer. You know, oh my gosh, was it around 2011? Sean Monahan, who's also on the website, I told him I want to create a subsidiary to compete with business improv. Because as you know, part of this is adaptability and change. We were turning down jobs because we are an elite organization, and they were like, we want that event, we want that fun thing. We don't care about the learning outcomes. And I'm like, that's not us. And so I'd ping them over to other organizations. And so I said, look, I want to compete with myself. I don't want to turn down jobs. And I want to create something different enough that it doesn't look or feel like a competition. So we created Westside Corporate Creativity so that they could just do tailored programs or off-the-shelf programs. They could do point-of-purchase, promotional stuff, man on the street stuff, you know, all sorts of stuff. They could do videos and stuff like that, you know, all sorts of stuff that business improv isn't going to take on, as we are a learning and development focused organization. You know, theirs is going to be much more of the fun stuff.
Right.
And so for me, as we talk about like that expansion, it's finding the right people and looking at the right opportunities for those people to essentially exploit either the opportunity or the market.
Well, and look for certain niches you can grab here or there that are not going to be part of your model, your base core model.
Yeah.
But you get requests for stuff and you go, well, we may not do that, but I've got a buddy or this would help, and that would be smart to have under your umbrella. So I do like that diversity. So when you look at everything that's been said here today, Bob, you covered a lot of ground, man. You have a lot of energy, which I love. True raw energy. It's not artificial, and that's natural, and it comes through. So how can people reach out to find out more about you, Bob? Because our 30 minutes flew by and we're done already. So tell me about how people can reach you, Bob.
Well, thank you for the compliment and energy. Energy begets energy, so I'm feeding off of you, my friend.
That's right.
All right, so you can find me on LinkedIn or even Business Improv on LinkedIn. Otherwise, go to businessimprov.com. That's the easiest way to find us and search through exactly what this great organization.
Well, Bob, it's been entertaining, it's been fascinating, and definitely enlightening, I'll say that. And I love your background, I love your model, and I wish you nothing but success going forward. So thank you for your time today.
Dennis, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Principal Podcast. We hope you've learned valuable lessons and strategies to grow your firm and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.